Now back to the Geek Speak Radio Show.
Now, Jamie, when you say everything is the sports, or at least are in 3D, is it broadcast in 3D? And the people who are watching it, do they have to have a 3D television, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's broadcast in 3D. What happens is for every camera rig out there on the football pitch, there's two cameras side by side, so one for the left eye, one for the right eye. They then get taken back to the truck, down a cable link to the outside broadcast truck, and it gets broadcast out on a satellite as a dual stream, and that goes through the air and comes back down into your living room to your set-top box, and gets split again and broadcast onto your 3D TV. So yeah, you have to sit there with your glasses if you've not lost them down the couch. And but from a lot of people that I know that have got 3D TVs, they're kind of bored of it already. You know, they don't want to have to sit there with glasses on all night long, and some people get headaches. But again, you know, I think it looks great sometimes if it's done properly. Right. And Sky over here are very good at doing that, and I'm sure they'll continue to do it for a while yet, because the platform that they've created is kind of it's got a lot of inertia behind it, you know, a lot of investment, so it's in their best interests to continue down that avenue.
Yeah, we're talking again to Jamie, creator of the Star Wars Begins documentary on YouTube. Again, the link is up on geekspeakradioshow.com and on our YouTube page. Jamie, you're obviously a big fan of Star Wars, I think.
Yes, a little bit.
Yeah. Is there anything else besides Star Wars that you're a big fan of? Movies or anything else?
As far as movies are concerned, you know, I grew up with those kind of 80s classics, you know, Indiana Jones, Ghostbusters. I love Jaws. You know, my shelf of DVDs is full of films like that. I'm also a keen reader. I like reading science fiction like Philip K. Dick, but also people that are still around like Ian M. Banks. I keep up to date with, and I'm a big fan of Murakami, the author. I've been reading some of his stuff, but you know, when you've got kids and you've got a freelance job that takes you around the world, and you've got a hobby making these documentaries, there isn't room for much else, to be honest.
Yeah, have you thought about what, if you even want to do another one, and what it's going to be about?
Well, I'm being asked that on Twitter daily at the moment. Raiding the Lost Ark, maybe the next one. Ooh. You never know. Or maybe I could tackle Jaws, or one of the guys who interviewed me recently wanted Flash Gordon.
Oh, really?
The thing is, with Star Wars, I know enough off the top of my head that I can then confirm by looking up in books and publications and on DVDs and documentaries and things to confirm them. But with something like Flash Gordon or Jaws or Indiana Jones, I don't know if there's that kind of wealth of information that's out there, you know. With the arrival of YouTube, you know, that was a great source of finding some rare interviews from back in 1977 and back in 1980 and 83 for the other two. I don't know if there's quite that kind of push behind, say, Indiana Jones or Jaws. And, you know, it might just end up being a rehash of one or two documentaries that were released, whereas these Star Wars projects, you know, I've probably drawn from anywhere between 100 and 300 different sources, you know, to put these things together.
And then what would be another good one is the Star Trek movies with the original cast, because there's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff, and maybe you can get to how people really feel about the Shat.
I think what I kind of wanted to do with this, you know, is kind of up the game a little bit as far as commentary is concerned, because it's become a bit of a lazy DVD extra sometimes, you know. I mean, a film like Star Wars, when they released it in 2004, I think it was, on DVD, you know, they should have had Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, they should have had Peter Mayhew, you know, played Chewbacca, and Dave Prowse. Instead, they had George Lucas, the sound designer and the effects guy. Oh, and Carrie Fisher as well was in there. But it wasn't, you know, it wasn't what fans really wanted. And my idea was just to sort of to raise the bar a bit and show that you can make something better than that. And you don't have to be, you know, a wealthy film production company. You can just be a guy sitting at home with his G5 Apple Mac and you know, drawing sources from all over the place. So it can be done. So it'll be interesting to see what other people come up with, and also what maybe some of the film film houses come up with for DVD extras. Now, I mean, this thing of mine has been all over the place in the last couple of weeks. I can't quite believe it. I was saying before we went on air that I would have tried a little harder if I knew it was going to be this big. It would have been a bit more slick, but towards the end I kind of just, it was hanging over me a bit. It had been there for years, and I thought I just need to get this thing done, so I finished it off quite quickly. And a little sloppy in places, but who knows, it might make these production companies think, actually, we need to raise our game. I don't know.
Yeah, I love a really good commentary on the DVD, and I was disappointed because I expected more from the Star Wars DVD commentaries. And you're right, Mark Hamill or Harrison Ford would have been awesome. And the thing that strikes me is when Lucas was starting out, when he was doing American Graffiti, he had the plans for Star Wars all along. He was a maverick and a rebel. And nowadays he's become the Empire, and
he's become exactly what he was fighting against.
And that's kind of rough for me to admit.
Yeah, I think it's just something that was unavoidable for him because he's been so successful, and it's difficult to kind of temper success against not becoming that mighty empire yourself. It's difficult when you're surrounded, or when you surround yourself with people just ready to do whatever you ask as well. I think, although I'm not a prequel hater or a Lucas basher, I don't love the prequels. I'm not even sure I like them, but I think that Star Wars, Empire and Jedi were products of a time when there were restrictions in place, and you had to kind of think of other ways of doing things, maybe practically, with regards to special effects. And I think now that he's surrounded by people that are, I was going to say sycophantic, but maybe just, doing things on his beck and call, I think that the prequels are a product of that situation. He says in interviews on the prequels, anything I can imagine now can be done.
Just because you imagine it, maybe you don't have to do it,
Exactly.
But you're right. The first three movies are such iconic films that those are the ones that the original fan base refer to as the Star Wars films.
Absolutely. I mean, and also if you look back at Star Wars, Empire and Jedi, they've got a real kind of grounded reality to them in a way. Although they're fantastical and they're set in a galaxy far, far away. You can see they're in a desert. You can see they're in a forest. You can see they're on an ice plain. You look at the prequels and straight away that the human eye is so good at identifying what's real and what's not real. And whilst we might be fooled by some other films, like I realised the other night that the film Zodiac is just full of special effects, but you wouldn't know it because the story was there driving it along, But a film like The Phantom Menace is always going to be under more scrutiny because it's coming from George Lucas and ILM, and because so much of the film is, I don't think there's a shot in that film that hasn't got an effect in it. I think the eye just gets kind of used to it and thinks, oh, that's just an effect, that's another effect. I like the grounded reality. I like to see that kind of tangible environment and props that were used in the original films.
I agree. And my background is a broadcasting background, so I subscribe to the theory of less is more.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I think it would be interesting if in a parallel universe, wouldn't it, if we saw what George would have done with the first Star Wars films, if he could have done whatever he wanted. I think that would have been very different films.
Sounds like...
I think also, I think the prequels wouldn't have been successful had they not been Star Wars.
Exactly.
If they'd just been another science fiction film, and without that big juggernaut of a franchise behind it, I don't think they would have been as successful. But then that's coming from a slightly cynical, 30-something.
Okay, and again, we were talking to Jamie. He is the creator of Star Wars Begins documentary, up on YouTube, also on the GeekSpeakRadioShow.com webpage and the YouTube page. It's all on there. If you haven't seen Star Wars, really? Like what? One of you out there? But this is a perfect complement to it. Jamie, thank you very much for taking the time. Great job again on the documentary.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on, guys. It's been nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. You're welcome back anytime.
Good. I look forward to it. Thanks.
We'll be back in just a few minutes. We'll speak geek on the Geek Speak Radio Show.
Geek Speak Radio Show will be right back.